Welcome back to every week's tutorials with Beauty Slash, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to do the hair stroke and actually different ways how you can do the hair stroke. At the end I will also introduce you the depth for the hair stroke because it's important to understand how you should work with the skin to not overdo with the color and not end up having your blue lines. So let's dive in. So there's several ways how you can do the hair stroke. And the first one, maybe you saw, it's just a line. When you push into the skin and slide a line. Another way how you can do the hair stroke is doing dashes. Now there's also actually another one is doing back and forth. And keeping your machine somewhat inside the skin, so not take it out and just going back and forth. Now there's also another way is if you bring your speed to very low, where you will feel like this is the lowest speed for your machine. This will create very pixelated hair strokes. Versus the line that I just showed. And I want to ask you, do you have any idea from these lines which one is maybe the best or the more dramatic or has more potential to go blue and too deep? I want you to think about this before I will give you my answer. So whether it's one line where you push into the skin or the slides, the dashes, or back and forth when you are going in the skin, or just the dashes but with a slower speed. Now you will also ask, Slash, but what about the first three lines? What was the speed over there? So I used the 4 volt, but it will actually really depends on the skin, on the client's skin, and I will talk more in details about the hair stroke speed in maybe later videos, but just to tell you the number, it's 4 volt. So now I want to show you which one of these were the least traumatic and which one of those were the more traumatic one that can heal bluish. So the first one, when we were pushing into the skin, you have to understand that your pressure when you are inserting your pigment, it's not always the same. So sometimes your hand goes deeper, sometimes you are having more pressure, sometimes you can keep. So it's really hard to control your pressure when you're doing this just one single line. So if you can imagine how the color goes inside the skin. So let's say sometimes if your pressure is right, your pigment is over here, but then if your suddenly pressure goes deeper, it goes deeper and then again. So it's not always at the same layer. So safer if you do these dashes movement this way, you can ensure that you have the same pressure level and the pigment is getting inside but not too deep and somewhere under epidermis layer. So actually if this is epidermis layer, your pigment with the dashes movement will be around just under epidermis, not going somewhere deeper. And obviously it will be everywhere, so it will be in epidermis and under epidermis too. For the better picture, actually should be like this, but later this epidermis layer will heal out, and what will we have at the end is just the color that sits under epidermis layer, because epidermis will heal out. So the same with back and forth. If you're doing back and forth, sometimes you can press too hard and the pigment can go too deep. It's really hard to show this on iPad, but you can imagine that you can't really control this back and forth movement, keeping your machine in the skin. So sometimes just with a tiny little push too much, you can end up with the color going deeper. So still the best way is if you're doing these short dashes. Now, because they are short, you can ensure that your hair stroke depth is at the right depth, not too deep. Now, I know there will be a lot of questions, so how deep and etc. I do want you to comment under this video your questions so I can address them in my next videos. Until now, keep on practicing and improving. See you in my next videos.